Hypocrisy.
Let's have a talk. Welcome to my TED Talk. See, here's the thing, chat. Here's the thing. I saw that I was muted. Oh, I did. I saw it. I saw that I was muted. The first time I saw I was muted, because I know I'm muted because that button was pressed. I unpressed the button. It's unmuted. I saw that. It was bright fucking red. Like Chief Wahoo. Right? Bright red. Shining my face. Am I fucking muted? Press the button. Now I'm unmuted. Now the button's depressed, like me. And I'm like, oh, no, it's good. It's good. Now I can just talk because the little meter's going. Audio channels are going right. And then I look. The fucking mic wasn't plugged in. It wasn't even plugged in. It's like that scene in From Hell, the Johnny Depp movie about Jack the Ripper, right? When the guy hires a prostitute, it's like, that'll be £5 or whatever, because she's British, and you're like, oh, please just don't talk. Just don't talk or I can't finish. And he puts her up against the fence, and he starts pounding away. He's like, and he talks the same because they're British. He's like, well, I'm just between your legs, ain't I? And she's like, no, you ain't me joining. And he's like, no, I'm just between your legs, you filthy cunt. And it turns out he was just between her legs, like just in the thigh gap, which she had from opium because heroin wasn't invented yet. And so he's like just dry thrusting between. How? Gotta be uncomfortable unless she was really sweaty. They are British. Maybe she was sweaty. I don't know. Anyway, it was like that. I'm like, the mic's not even plugged in. It's just sitting there between the thighs. So fucking, I'm angry. I'm angry right now. God damn it. All right. Okay. Zoltar Ortega says, remember, folks, he does this for a living. Just kidding. I actually don't know what's more offensive in that statement. That he does this for a living or the just kidding. God damn. Ouch. Ah. All right. Okay. I do have show topics. I do. It's Wednesday. I thought I'd throw a change up, which is why I was muted. It's going to do the whole show muted. All right. Disney finally admits that Gina Carano was fired because of the Jews, which is weird because when you think about Walt Disney, you think about Gina Carano, and you're like, I think Walt would have approved of that tweet. Actually, I don't. I think he would have made a worse tweet. No, she does this tweet, and they're all like, "Oh God, it's so offensive." She just retweeted a picture about like conservatives dealing with the same shit as the cyanide showers of old Dachau. I don't know. Dachau? Is it Dachau? Whatever. Auschwitz. Why do all German concentration camps just sound like really good sausage dishes? I don't know. Anyway, but that's not what the meme actually said. And she just like retweeted it, like a blind retweet. Like, haha, this will get her. They're finally admitting like that's what it was for. They've responded in the lawsuit. They're asking to dismiss the suit. And they're like, but we really like the Jews and she doesn't. So we wanted to fire her. And Gina Carano was like, but I love Jews. I don't know what they're talking about. It's a dumb lawsuit. Of course it is. Well, I shouldn't say it's a dumb lawsuit. I mean, the dispute between Gina Carano and Disney. I forgot that she's the one who sued them. She sued them. It's still kind of a dumb, like, it's a really hard lawsuit to win. Maybe she'll win. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think she has the greatest case. We went through the suit a while back. I don't think it's the greatest lawsuit. But hey, I do like people challenging these mega corporations. I do like challenging the mass media distribution, because they're the gatekeepers of information. They're the gatekeepers of the social zeitgeist, right? Like if 4 kids get together on a playground and they start talking about revolution, like glorious revolution in the name of Marx, that gets broadcast on CNN. They're like, yes, look at these bright, young, aspiring students. One of them is named David Hogg and the 3 others are his victims. That's what CNN says. But they say victims lovingly, like a public school teacher with children. And then if you get 4 conservative children who are like, no, I will only eat half of this American cheese because the other half I will keep in memory of how great it was. Like if you get them gathered together and they're conversing, they're like, look at these guys. They're probably storming the Capitol tomorrow. Like they're 3'5". I mean, I know they're taller than Nick Fuentes, but they're still not a threat. And so that's like, they treat them differently. Disney's the same. And they have been the gatekeepers of the social zeitgeist, the cultural discussion for so long, and they see it dying in the era of social media. And that's why everybody wants to bend social media to the will of government, to the will of these diversity and inclusivity panels, all of this shit, diversity, equity, and inclusivity panels. They want everything to be homogenized under some brand of cultural oppression of the cultural majority. They want to devalue and decrease the impact of the history of America and its culture. They want to tell you that every culture America has came from somewhere else, but it isn't fucking true. Like, oh, America doesn't have its own culture. They imported it from the Irish. Like nobody imported. Well, we took whiskey from them, sort of like, but we got other whiskeys that were better. And they give us Conor McGregor. And it's like, well, but I mean, he's a little guy, but he beat people up. But that's just every guy who's Irish. They're like, oh, no, you got it from the Chinese. Like, we didn't get Chinese culture. We have more than one baby per person. Like, we didn't actually take, like, we took snippets of culture, incorporated it, yes, but American culture developed on its own. It's very rugged. It's very individualistic. British culture is way different. And the difference wasn't more apparent than in World War I, when the Americans voluntarily went over and helped out the British. And fucking Pershing's writing about it. It's like, God damn, the American troops are great. Because they were cool. They weren't supposed to be any good. The British were good. They sent bodies and bodies and bodies. They just piled up British men like a French orgy in a giant wall laying face down on each other, probably suckling on various parts. They're dying, though. They're trying to breathe. They're not actually gay. The French was the next pile over, and they're like, hey, come over here. Anyway, they were good at piling up bodies and winning through attrition. Just so many soldiers willing to die for Mother England or whatever, the Queen. Long live the Queen. The King, they didn't like that guy. But the Queen, they liked her because she was a woman, and they're simps. But then Americans come over, and they're like in fucking dusters, and they got pistols, and they're like, yeah! That was just Texas. But they started shooting people, and the British are like, well, these guys are cool. They don't want to die. I want to be like them. World War II, we do the same thing. Anyway, America does develop its own culture. We don't take it from everybody. We do take bits and pieces of it, right? We do that. But just because you take like the grill of a Bentley and slap it on a Ford doesn't make the Ford a Bentley. It's still a Ford. It's still affordable. That was a dad joke. But they don't want Americans to have their own culture. They want you to know that American culture is a weak, subservient thing. It's subject to everyone else. And the better culture that's coming that we can build, if we try, is just Marxism. At the end of the day, it's some brand of Marxism. Every fucking time. It's always, wow, but the worker, let's have a 30-hour work week. It's like, why? Who's asking? I know who's asking for a 30-hour work week. Me. right? When I worked a 40-hour work week, I was like, a 30-hour work week seems better if I get paid the same. Because of course it does. Of course that sounds better. Just like the 40-hour work week sounded better than the 80-hour work week. It actually wasn't an 80-hour work week because they're like, well, we can only count to 80, but you're working more. All of this stuff, all of these rules, all of these structures and regulations on business, and ultimately, really though, on people and their choices. All of this comes down to having a narrative that must be pushed. And the narrative is that Americans cannot be American. They don't want you to. They want you to be something else. And the boards, the CEOs, the limp-wristed little weirdos running around dictating what comes on to every single major network, all of them have come up in this school of thought that you need to be subservient to the information class. And that's the little bit of difference that we see, because we see a lot of gov cucks out there, right? They're like, I love taxes. I pay them twice. But then you get to the information class, and that's where we're focusing. Where I've been focusing a lot without saying it. It's legacy media. It's mass media. They were the gatekeepers of information for so long that they believed themselves righteous. That's why you see CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS acting like they do. They act with impunity. They act as if their word is doctrine and gospel. They act as if Reuters is the only valid source of information, or the Associated Press, because they're associated with the press. They have the only information you'll ever need. And I'm not joking. Like, it's wild how they treat this. Look at the disdain and scorn they have for citizen journalists. People like James O'Keefe. People like Andy Ngo. These guys go out and they uncover stories. They do real investigative journalism in the modern era. They get undercover people to go and find information from gays desperately seeking butt sex every time. Why is it always that? Like, how did you get access to him? Well, I promised him access to me on Grindr. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah, actually the government comes into our office and the FBI just points guns at us and tells us what to do. But we don't need the guns because we're already unzipping. Like, it's always like that. Like, how'd you get access to him? Well, Grindr. How'd you get access to this guy? Oh, Grindr. Well, this is like a high up, like a 3-star general overseeing nuclear facilities in Wyoming. How'd you get access? Grindr. Because that's the way. Why do you think they don't want gays in the Grindr? Anyway, you have Veritas sending people in, doing undercover investigative journalism. You've got hidden cameras. You've got characters. You've got misrepresentations and deceptions for the purpose of getting access to someone and making them comfortable. Not anything overtly unethical or illegal in any way. You just go and say, yeah, I'm Todd. I'm that guy you called up on Grindr. Right? You do that like that. And then they know. And then they're like, yeah, actually, let me tell you where the bodies are buried. Every time. And then they're like, how could you do this to me? It's so fucking funny to me. And then you got Andy Ngo, and he just goes out and gets beat up and like cement milkshakes or whatever thrown at him. And you're like, well, that's sad, I guess. But listen to the disdain they have for anybody like this. Listen to the disdain they had for Glenn Greenwald. How dare you expose the government? They didn't tell us to do that. The information class holds themselves at a higher value than any other group of people. And they think they get to control the thought of America. Who was it? What was that weirdo? Was that he's like, they think they control the minds of America. And that's our job. Does anybody remember that guy? He's on fucking NBC. He's the conservative on NBC. What the fuck? What was his name? God, I hate that guy. He's the morning show with the chick. No, that's a gay one. It's not Anderson Cooper. It's the fucking hell. Morning Joe. Yeah, Joe Scarborough. Yes. That little weirdo. Like, haha. My hair looks like a wig, but it's not. It's paint. I don't know why he talks like that. But Joe Scarborough was the guy. I think he was the guy who's like, no, that's our job. And they believe it. They honestly believe it. Like, no, well, look, we'll give you the information and we'll frame how you should think about it, because this is how you should think about it. That's why so many Americans thought Kyle Rittenhouse shot black people. For so long after he was acquitted, they're like, how'd that white boy get away from shooting black people? We didn't. He got convicted for every black person he shot. We're going to talk about Gina Carano and Disney. That's where this started. But it's about mass media. It's about controlling a narrative. Of course, it involves, I say, of course it involves Jews because it's funny. Then we have January 6th. It's an inside job. There's this video of a guy. Oh, Jake says that was Mika Brzezinski or whatever. She's the one who said that. Mika. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. All women look the same. All women look the same, but you measure them in number of women that they look like, right? Like Mika Brzezinski looks like one woman. Taylor Swift looks like one woman. Nicki Minaj bordering on 2 women. Amy Schumer, 3.5 women. She ate half of the 4th woman. You can see how it goes, right? Tess Holliday's incalculable number of women. She's a small country, large country of women. No, it's a small country of women. The larger countries we're going to skip that. So there's this video floating around. This guy who claims to be like CIA or something. I don't know. And he's like, no, we like 20 FBI guys. I know these FBI guys. They were out there in the crowd on January 6th. Well, yeah, FBI guys were in the crowd on January 6th. That shouldn't even be controversial, right? But they're like, listen to why conservatives believe the CIA did January 6th after they got done with 9/11. It's like that. Well, that is a leap from. So I don't know if this guy has any credentials as CIA. I mean, how could you find out, right? We could just lie. They do all the time. But so who knows? He did work for, I think, Department of Homeland Security or something. We'll talk about it. But he's like, yeah, we had feds in there. We're talking about jailing people at will, some sort of entrapment shit. And then apparently people are like, that's an inside job. I don't know if it means it's an inside job, but can we talk for just a little bit? For just a little bit, how they're like, it's crazy to think that the government had FBI agents in the January 6th crowd. Why is that crazy? To me, it's crazy if the government doesn't have undercover FBI agents in the January 6th crowd. That's the weirder outcome. Because, as we saw in Michigan, they send FBI agents into nowhere. They find 3 guys in a chat group. They're like, oh, we'll make it 10 with some titty pictures. And suddenly we're capturing Whitmer, right? Like that's how that shit played out. And they're like, yes. And all these guys are like handshaking. They're like, oh, you handshake like an FBI agent on Grindr, right? Like that's how they're all like, oh yeah, I'm a Fed. Oh, I'm a Fed. And then like a couple guys are like, we ain't Feds. And then those guys all get arrested. If they're going to send FBI agents to these weirdos, why are we surprised if they send them into a giant crowd coming on January 6th that everybody knew was happening? Like, I knew it was happening. Someone called me and they're like, hey, Nick. I'm like, hey, what's up? I haven't talked to you in like 2 years. Like, you going to January 6th, buddy? I'm like, no. I mean, I'm going to be alive, I think, on January 6th. That's a couple days. Like, no, are you going to Washington? Why would I go to Washington on January 6th? We got a rally. Cool. I'm not getting in a van with you and driving down to a rally in Washington, D.C. I don't even want to go to Washington, D.C. at all right now, much less in a couple days, much less with a bunch of people standing around yelling outside. I don't want to do that. Why would I drive across the country with you? I have a family and stuff. And they're like, well, I'm just saying. You going to go? No, you have fun. I haven't heard from them since. I don't know if they're okay. Any one of those like little Facebook, safe from federal prosecution. So-and-so marked themselves safe from the feds. Oh, thank God. But if I knew about it, everybody knew about it because I don't know about shit. That's my point there. So, of course, they've got feds in there. They're in D.C. It's not even that far. Anyway, we're talking about that. And then, of course, we've got the Republicans. Thank fucking God. The Republicans are here to push, to try and re-engage, to renew the FISA bill, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Because that thing's so good, right? It's so good. Just warrantless surveillance of American citizens all over the place constantly with giant server farms just to collect every phone call, text, and titty picture that you send. Like I'm talking to you chunky boys, right? You send those floppies to each other's. You know, well, that's fat guys send boob pictures of other fat guys. I've read that in the Encyclopedia Britannica. I'm just saying. Anyway, they look at everything. Of course they do. Well, they don't look at it. They don't look at it. They store it on a server that no one ever looks at, and they can get warrants to go and look at the stuff that they stored because they haven't looked at it yet. Well, we might need to see what they were doing. So we record everything and put it there. No one looks at that, though. That'd be weird. Browser history, Nikki rackets. Oh, my God. NSA. Not sorry. Not sorry. But yes, the Republicans are pushing for renewal of FISA. And Trump's like, kill FISA, kill it. FISA, 4 letters, not even a good acronym. A good acronym is a word, a strong word. A strong word like bigly. The billionaires ignite gays, liberals, and Yahtzees Act. Bigly A. That's what I call it. Like, it's always an acronym. It's like defense or like commiserate. And you're like, holy shit, that's got a lot of provisions in it. I don't want commiserate to pass. But they always pick a word and it's like, this is very crafty and cool and clever. And you're like, you read it and you're like, well, that's a lie. But the FISA is just a basic, straightforward, like 4-letter acronym. It's not a word. It's like Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Well, that seems innocuous. We want to surveil foreign intelligence. Like, that seems good because foreign intelligence might be better than our intelligence or might know something that we don't, like how to do math or whatever. And we might want to surveil that. That seems like a great thing. And you find out that it's not actually foreign intelligence surveillance. It's domestic surveillance of American citizens who might know someone who contacts someone foreign. And then you're like, well, that seems weird. Like, that's not what the act does. Oh, and it also creates a court to rubber stamp warrants. Stamping those warrants like Stormy Daniels and Dark Side Phil, right? Like, just stamping away. Because that's how they do. I think it was 97% approval rate at the lowest. Republicans want this back. Remember always that Republicans are just gov cucks in a different direction. So we're going to talk about that. What else we get to? I don't know. Does it matter? There are other stories out there. Do you want to hear them? Are you man enough to hear them? So I started watching Glengarry Glen Ross last night. So now I'm just thinking about Alec Baldwin shooting that woman on set. Where do they, they do the porn parodies of like major movies, like the Pirates of the Caribbean movie or whatever. Like they do. When are they going to do that at like major crimes? It's like, no one dies in this one. Yay. Alec Baldwin's like, we're doing a rehearsal. I'm going to shoot all over you. Here you go. Set designer, whatever, cinematographer. Here it comes. Anyway, stop talking about Alec Baldwin. I'm going to get all randy here. All right. Deus Ex Machina Prime says Trump 2024. I agree. I think at this point, I can agree with you. I can agree. So here we go. We got to do this one for... I shouldn't have started with the story about Jews because I want the stream to go on to the end, but we're going to try it anyway. I like this. RoboNext 666. Where did you learn your trade, you stupid fucking cunt? Isn't that what he said to his daughter? God, it was a brutal voicemail. I like it. I like it. So this is from Daily Beast. This is very much a balanced, well-written, and objective article. Disney reveals final straw for firing the Mandalorian's Gina Carano. And this is a trustworthy article because it was written by someone with a hyphenated last name whose name starts with an E, ends in an I, and is Ebony. Oh, fucking hell. You can't. Her first last name is Boykin. You cannot make this shit. Why? They always get to, I don't understand. I don't get it. Okay. At first it was pictures of a white girl and I was very confused, but it's an African. She's kind of cute. I don't know. Her forehead moonlights as the local drive-in screen. Good. Holy Lord. Hold on. Guys, I have to up the resolution on my monitor to get his forehead in the frame. Just a second. Reminds me of those dinosaurs. You know, the ones that like mini T-Rexes, but they got that bald ass head and they're like, and they run and hit each other or whatever in Jurassic Park. Jesus. You just smash heads with each other. It's like, why don't you just grow horns and like antlers and shit like a ram? They're like, no, we're going to hit our skulls on each other. That's great. She could headbutt a wall so hard Mongolia would invade. All right. Oh, fuck. Here we go. Sorry. That was rude. Disney reveals final straw for firing the Mandalorian's Gina Carano. I'm going to call her, if she wasn't her, I'd call her Gina. Disney has filed to throw out Gina Carano's wrongful termination suit, according to court documents obtained by the Daily Beast, in which the company said it has every right to, quote, decide which performers to employ to express its artistic messages. Disney, artistic messages. That's it. So we got Alex Scott Thompson says you're muted. This motherfucker. It's a Wednesday, brother. It's a Wednesday. Grifty says, please look into SawStop / table saw ban. Congress is about to ban table saws without this tech. Huge cost to contractors, seatbelts for construction equipment. Now, look, I know about the SawStop because I know about things that I can't use. But the SawStop is this really, I was actually just talking to my kids about it. I don't know why. I'm trying to think. My two boys are my oldest. And they had a Colt, like an Oscar Mayer hot dog, right? Like the floppy one. And they had it, and they were talking about something, and it reminded me that the SawStop, they don't want to demonstrate it on a people, right? Because it's weird. Because like, what if it doesn't work? And it's like, look, it just completely stops the blade, and they don't have fingers, right? They become the half hand from Game of Thrones. You don't want that. So it would take a hot dog and put it in, and it stops and it doesn't cut the hot dog. It's pretty cool because it's like basically a giant, I don't know how to describe it. There's like a gear attached to the axle whatever. You know what I'm talking about? The thing that spins the blade goes. Imagine a frail white man describing this to you. It'll make much more sense. There's a bladey spinny thing, and there's a thing that spinnies the bladey thing, and then there's a brake that clamps in if it has any conducted electricity running through the blade, which is fucking cool. So if it touches your finger skin or your foreskin, which is why they want to. If it touches your finger skin or your foreskin, an electric current hits the blade and the SawStop goes and stops this thing immediately. Now bust the shit out of the saw. That thing's gone because there's a lot of torque running through that thing because like we want to chop. And when it stops, suddenly all that torque goes into the axle and then it goes into the table. Shit splits and breaks. It goes all over, which is cool. You don't want to do that all the time. Like it's not the thing you do when your friends come over. Unless they're Philistines, but so the government wants to mandate this. This is a cool tech, but of course it's very expensive. And of course it's much cheaper to just have the illegal worker cut his fingers off. That doesn't cost anything. You just send him back to Mexico and you hire a different one, right? From Home Depot or like the parking lot. Even if it's like a union worker or whatever, who cares if union workers lose their fingers? They're not working anyway. So like you don't want the SawStop if you got a real job, but if you're at home, you probably want one, but it's not affordable for them. No, that's pretty interesting. I think the technology is cool. I remember watching it when it came out and like being like, oh wow, I wish I did construction so I could understand why this was important, but I don't because I'm little. James Gardner says government is good. Cops are there to help. Nobody's watching. Warrants are silly. Fat chicks are pretty. And I read on a fruity website that you're looking a little plump. Fuck everyone. Great show. Oh, you're the first person to say I look plump in a long time. Thank God. Zenchilla X, this is probably a farewell super chat. Oh shit. I live in Brazil. And pretty soon our freedom of speech will go bye-bye. Sorry, wait. Yours is going bye-bye. What about mine? Like, they can't stop me. You can't stop me now. Like Freddie Mercury. Wait, don't be Freddie Mercury in Brazil. Oh, how do you do a Brazilian accent? I think you just drool a lot and say twink. All right, here we go. Back to this. Back to the Disney. They're in the 4th version of that now. It doesn't fuck up the saw anymore. Whoa, really? God damn. What race and gender was the engineer who made the 4th version? Just, you know. You already know. All right. Carano, a guest actress on the first 2 seasons of Disney's The Mandalorian. Why do people keep watching this shit? In which she played Cara Dune. If she was Cara Dune Smurf and wore a burqa and a suicide vest, it would have been cooler. Was not asked to return for the show's 3rd season after she posted several messages to her social media profiles that Disney CEO at the time, Bob Chapek, said didn't align with company values. See, this is why it's a really difficult wrongful termination suit. Honestly, Gina Carano has to establish that she was employed, was subsequently terminated. And look, I know this is Yahoo Entertainment citing or like stealing the Daily Beast article or just distributing, whatever it is with the Daily Beast article. Fuck you, the Daily Beast. I hope you get Daily Bear backed. The way they frame it isn't wrong. She was asked, or she wasn't invited to return. So they have to establish, it's not that they can't, mind you, but it's a challenge. They have to establish that her not being invited to return to the show is akin to a termination. But look, if you go to Walmart, because they invite you there for a sale, like, come in here, buy our cookies. You go and you buy their cookies. You're like, these are some okay cookies. And you leave, and they don't say, come in here and buy the cookies again. They didn't throw you out of Walmart, right? That's not quite the same as Gina Carano, which is important because analogies aren't the same. They're akin to. That's why they have anal in them. And OG, which is 1 letter away from orgy. They're not throwing her out necessarily. She has to establish why a failure to invite her for another show or another season was an effective or constructive termination. It's easy when some jackass fires you from the job you're at. It's much harder if you're a gig worker and you work at a bar like for 3 straight years, every Tuesday and Thursday in March and August and maybe October. And then the next year they're like, yeah, we don't need you. Like, we don't need you to fill in those days. It was nice having you for a while, but we got another guy now. He's cheaper. We imported him from Louisiana. And then you're like, what, you firing me? It's like, you weren't hired. You're like a contractor or what? Contract work. You don't even have a contract. We just give you Bud Light. This really was a good deal for us. And you have to then establish, like, no, I've made plans. I relied on this income. We've established a business relationship that is an employer-employment relationship, even though it's not actually. You have to establish how you were terminated. That's a hurdle that Gina has to overcome. Hollywood, Hollyweird, whatever, mass media, movie production, TV production is very, very fickle. There are lots of gay people and kid touchers with a lot of money, and they want to make movies, right? But they don't always want to make the movie that they wanted to make yesterday because they might see a new underage person they want to touch. And they're like, Elijah Wood, I like both parts of that name, right? Like, you just imagine. MGM studio executives, bring me another unwashed 11-year-old. That's what they're not talking about like a really, really hot person. They're talking about age, right? And they're like, well, we already touched Cameron Diaz a lot, but now she's 15 and there's probably someone younger. because these people are disgusting and horrible people. So they change projects, right? They do a lot. And just because you don't get invited back, maybe because they canceled the project, because I'm pretty sure the Cara Dune show was like canceled. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. You don't get invited back. That doesn't mean you were terminated necessarily. You have to show why it was a termination, why they didn't just look at another child and go, I want that one. Like the Backstreet. I want it. Anyway, God, I hate Hollywood. I fucking hate these people. They're so gross. Can we stop pretending they're not gross? You're like, oh yeah, John Wick is cool. Keanu Reeves is shooting a bunch of people. Basically mimic the producers of the movie. Yay. And you're like, but it is awesome. Like, he's that guy's face on a granite counter in John Wick 1. Like, he's like going straight on. His face stops on the counter because it's granite. And you're like, God. Oh, he hit that harder than Dale Earnhardt. And you're like, that was awesome. But then you remember that a kid toucher probably was involved in making John Wick. And you're like, that's why they called it Wick. Grifty says contract talks about spinoff. Change the math. What? Squid Monkey says he's proposing a bill in Congress. Clitoris, Clitoris. Ladies and gentlemen, he found it. Committee for the Liberation and Integration of Terrifying Organisms and the Rehabilitation into Society. Or bring in the Democrats. That's good. That's good. Sparta 300 says, hey, Nick, can we please talk about butter dishes? Don't you fucking get me started. Have you bought a modern butter dish? Have you bought one of these things? Why don't they have handles? Little glass handle. Bloop. That's all you need. Why don't they have a handle? You say you got to grab the side of the butter dish. Oh, I don't know. Do you have children? Have you ever even seen a child? Hollywood has. Have you seen a child use butter? They get butter everywhere. It's all over the bottom of the dish. This thing fits inside like a saucer, but it's rectangular sauce. I don't know what a rectangular saucer thing fits in. Kids slap butter all over the edges of that shit, and then they put the lid just right down on globs of butter everywhere. It's everywhere. So you're like, oh, I just want some butter. And you grab it and you're like, ew. Oh, God, it was like grabbing an Italian. It's so gross. Oh, I hate it. It's like, put a handle on top. They used to put handles on top back when they did things right, back when they were American made, back in the 50s where women were at home. And the men put the handles on the butter dish because the women asked them to. But now women aren't home. And all the men are single. They don't even know you need a handle because they don't use the butter dish. It's an ashtray that's upside down. When I go to Target the next time, if I don't see a butter dish with a fucking handle, I'm going to lose my goddamn. I'm so mad. I bought like 5 butter dishes because I put one in the microwave. Don't ask why you put a butter dish in the microwave. There was no butter on this dish, but don't ask why. It doesn't matter. That's not Pyrex. You can't microwave a glass butter dish that isn't Pyrex. It launches glass shards into every fucking county around you. Don't do it unless you're trying to kill people in your house. Then do it twice. Don't microwave a butter dish. But just put a handle on top. So I've had to buy butter dishes because some kids throw them on the ground too. They're like, they pick it up. They're like, just like when they grab an Italian, they're like, ew, gross. And they throw it. That's what Germany did to Mussolini. And like they got butter all over their hands. They're like crying about the butter. It's like, stop touching all of the cabinets. Just wash your hand. Warm water. I don't know, use a paper towel. Just wipe it off. And they're like, it's oily. I know. So you have to buy another butter dish. None of them have handles. You know where you get butter dishes with handles? Goodwill. You know what they have on those? Homeless germs, because they came from a cart in Seattle. That was the one thing that person took from their home when it was taken back by its original owners because they were squatting in it yesterday. God, I fucking hate butter. Why would you do? How would you know? How did you? I seriously. How did you know I hated butter dishes? God, I'm so fucking mad. Okay. Damn it, Nick, buy a buttery. Ellie, You know what, Ellie? I like you, Ellie. You're a nice person. And that's the only reason I'm going to do this to you right now is because you keep saying I'm not a Texan. Ellie, out of all of the chat, there's one person who I would definitely trust their expertise on butter dishes, and that's you. That's right. It got cold up in here, and this butter got hard. All right, here we go. After posting that suicide and murder rates were somehow related to widespread pandemic closures and vaccine mandates. Wait, I'm sorry. Did this motherfucker just suicide and murder rates were somehow related to widespread pandemic closures and vaccine mandates? Do you not think that they were? Do we think that people didn't commit suicide for being locked up for COVID? Do people like not remember what happened? They were putting butter dishes in every microwave, sneaking into homes, masked up, of course. Democrats. I'll stay 6 feet away from you while I burgle your house. And by burgle, I mean your butthole. And they put the butter dishes in. People died. George Bush lied. Commies cried. People died from butter dishes on 9/11/2020. Anyway, questioning Donald Trump's loss in the 2020 election. Oh, wait, I got to make this big. And mocking people for displaying their pronouns. She posted that hers were boop, bop, beep. Those aren't even real pronouns. Why were they mad about this? T-Man 2442 says, ever try a Butterbell? It's far superior to your average butter dish. You know why I love the internet? Do you know why? I am learning that there are echelons of butter dishes out there. I'm just my friends describe me as bougie. You know why? Because I won't stay at an econo lodge. Like, wow, there's only 9 of us. We could probably all fit in a Days Inn. No. I don't want to be anywhere near any of you people. All in, like, you mean one room at a Days Inn? Am I buying an entire Days Inn? No. Why don't we just get a better hotel room? I don't know, closer to what we're doing. Because you picked a Days Inn in Iowa. They describe me as bougie for this. Like, look, when I go out in the woods, I just want to sleep on a Tempur-Pedic mattress at night. And I just want Jorge to read me stories in Espanol. Like, I want that to happen, and I will pay extra for it. But I'm learning now that I'm just a normal plebeian Walmart shopper, Target shopper when it comes to butter dishes. There's a whole world of butter dishes that I didn't know about. I feel like I've been lied to the entire time by CNN. You didn't build that better hotel room. God damn it. I really love butter, but I really hate butter. So I know this is a tangent, and I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. When I married Lady Raggets, I didn't actually eat much real butter back then because my parents were lazy, heretical monsters, and they ate a beautiful thing. It was a partly hydrogenated vegetable oil called Country Crock. Now, I know you RNs in the chat, not registered nurses, but real N's in the chat know that Country Crock spread. It doesn't matter how cold that shit is. It's still, it comes up in like little ripples as it goes up the knife, and you're like, with each one, so you scrape your knife along that thing, is, and you suddenly have this weird like erection of Country Crock sticking up over the top of your knife, and I know you know what I'm talking about because I know you're all fat. I know you did. I did this too. I never ate it with a spoon. That's disgusting. You eat it with a knife because you're pretending to make a sandwich. And you just get a couple of those things and eat. And all it tastes like is just fatty goodness. Oily with a little, it's like, is that milk? No, that isn't milk. Oh, but they tried. Oh my God, it's good. And they added sugar to compensate. Country Crock spread. So that's what my parents bought. I grew up on Country Crock. I didn't even know butter was real because cows are fake. Because I grew up in India. I didn't. That's a joke. Love cows. Love to eat those. But I didn't know butter, like real butter existed, but people like use it in weird ways. Right? Country Crock goes in the fridge. Butter goes on the goddamn counter in a butter dish where it stays soft like an old man. And you want that because you want to spread it on your bread or toast or pancakes or whatever. Waffles, fucking like melting butter, just puddles of it. And you're like, oh. You start sweating. Oh, it's like pulls of butter. Put cinnamon, you can put powdered sugar in there, put fruit if you're gay, or you could just eat it with syrup and butter like a man. God, I fucking love waffles. Anyway, I grew up with Country Crock spread. I marry Lady Raggets, and she's like, I'm like, oh, we bought some butter. I guess I'll put it in the fridge until I have to use it in something. Because I used butter to cook stuff. I didn't put it on stuff because you put fake butter on stuff. Like Fabio, I can't believe it's not butter. That's what you did. She's like, no, you idiot. Here's a dish. You put it on the counter. I'm like, if you put it on the counter, you're going to die because that's going to rot. No, it won't. It stays there forever. Doesn't stay there forever, but close. Funny thing is, she flipped positions on that, not on the butter, but on everything else. I'm like, this chicken sandwich I made is only 12 days old. If I put it in the air fryer, I can eat it and it'd be just fine. Like, there's some people gonna die. It's like just a chicken sandwich. Anyway, but she will put butter on the fucking counter for a month. Anyway, God, why did you tangent me on butter again? I don't know what a butter bell is. DJ82. Oh, DJI82. Breaking news, Nick Rekieta claims Building 7 was brought down by butter dish in a microwave. Wasn't it? Do you think it wasn't? A Fed with insider knowledge said, that makes more sense than the official story. It does. It does. Because, actually, though, let's be honest. Let's be honest for a second. It was really just a fat chick falling out of one of the planes that hit Building 7. She was on fire, collapsed into Building 7. That thing was toast, which is why you butter it. Okay. Go for Big Guy 911. Hey, knows Joe needs $700 to pay for printing of his lawsuit against the Trump gag order by tomorrow. He's auctioning a signed copy of the lawsuit to pay for it. You should win that auction with a donation to his Venmo. You want me to pay Joe $700 to get a signed copy of his lawsuit so you can pay a fee? What? Ryan, the editor, says, why are you talking about butter instead of Gina Lamau? Her name is not Lamau. It's Gina Carano. God, you're fucking offensive. Poll in chat. Should Ryan be fired forever? Here we go. We're going to do poll. Sorry, poll. Should Ryan, the editor, be fired forever? Question mark. Yes? No? Add option. Ryan eats polls. He just dropped it to 500. Menu says Nick can pull off stand-up in a Shake Shack. It was a bowling alley, you asshole. In an arena, I don't think the dedication it requires is in his blood and flesh meats. No, I should not be in an arena. But it was a bowling alley. You can't buy a butter bell because they're French origin. We all know how you feel up the French. Feel up the French? Well, they are sapel. They like to smoke their cigarettes. Drink their coffee like Jewel, right, in that song. Joe Schmo, one of three, says YouTube poll. Who cares what the heathens think? Well, no one. But YouTube is the only chat window with a functional poll service. Like, look, if you want to, in locals or Rumble, if you want to grab onto a poll, you want to start shaking it vigorously, tell me what you think about Ryan the editor, and should he be fired forever? I mean, you can do that. You can just grab a hold of that baby. Lost and Law says, Nick, cashed. They said crash. Cash my first legal work check with CHEQUE because he's a Canadian gay recently, but I'm cheap, so here's $5 of it. Well, thank you. I hope the anal dilator is nice for you, that you spent the rest of it on. God damn it. The Polish are delicious. They're stringy. They're not meaty. Here we go. Back to this. And here we go. She mocked people for displaying their pronouns. Disney said her post, quote, trivialized the Holocaust. Trivializing the whole Holocaust was a final straw. So, trivia. We're going to go down a definition chain because it's weird, right? Have you ever thought of the word trivializing? So, trivia is a noun. It's a noun. Details, considerations, or pieces of information of little importance or value. Is trivia of little importance or value? I don't know. I think like that knowledge bowl thing's pretty fucking important. So if we go to trivialize, let's just see what they think of Jews. Trivialize, make, it's in parentheses. There are 3 parentheses. Something seem less important, significant, or complex than it really is. Okay. Think about it. Okay, so we say she's trivializing the Holocaust. Well, seem less important. Well, we don't want her to do that. The Holocaust is very important. Very important, very important. You know, there's a country called Germany. So there's a Norm Macdonald joke I'm not going to do. Make the Holocaust seem less important. I don't think she actually did that. She's like, no. And actually, let me unironically defend logically that meme, because it wasn't Gina Carano's words. She retweeted it, right? Someone else's words. They didn't actually make the Holocaust seem less important. The attempt, the constructive value of the words in the picture, creating a meme on the internet, was to detrivialize, like decriminalizing, but for white people, to detrivialize what conservatives and Republicans have to deal with in the workplace, at home. What Gina Carano unironically went through after this post. They're like, whoa. She has the wrong opinions. We got to get rid of it. We can't have the Mandalorian. Sounds like a menorah. Menorah-lorian's going to be there. She wears the same length tassels. She has the same fabrics on the thing. Also a woman, she can't go into the tabernacle. That's where we're not going to talk about it. The Catholics win that one. Public schools, way worse. We got to get rid of her, right? But they weren't trivializing the Holocaust. They're actually detrivializing the stigma associated with being a public persona who is conservative, like without jokes. That's what they were trying to do with that meme. Gina Carano retweets it. We don't know why. She doesn't add any commentary because... Do I have to sum up Gina Carano's career like this? She's a friend of my friend. Drunk 3PO, not 3PRIO. Drunk 3PO gets to hang out with Gina Carano. I don't want to shit talk her, but like, people are like, oh, she's pretty. I'm like, well, there's a career. You say, oh, he's pretty. That's not a career. Oh, she's pretty. Well, that's a career. Oh, she punches and kicks people moderately hard. It's like, well, not for a guy. Like for a guy, you die, but for a woman, you punch and kick them moderately hard. And, it's your world champion kickboxer. Cool. Good job, Gina Carano. She is on screen. I don't know how wordy she is. She's an actress, I guess, or whatever. She's an actress. I don't know how like philosophical or deep or introspective she is that she's coming up with these memes and like adding import to them. She's like, this is an interesting question. God, I would hate doing that. I would hate having that be your lawsuit, right? Because that's what the lawyers say. She didn't add any commentary. She's like, oh, it's just an interesting question. Like, oh, I totally found this thing. They make her look like a fucking idiot. It's like, why would you do that? It's mean. It's very mean to Gina Carano. But that's what they said, so we're running with it. Was the Holocaust really that complex, though? Like, let's say you accept the narrative or whatever. Like, yeah, lots of them died. I'm joking. That's a joke. Anyway, but more complex. How complex did it need to be? Really, though. Hitler's like, the Jews, they get in the trains run on time. I'm talking French. And they send them to the, whatever, like the bakery or something, and a bunch of them die. It's like, well, that wasn't planned. Like Parenthood in America, but they did do that. We're like, maybe don't. And while you're busy killing all the Jews, could you just not like take over all the countries around you that we don't like that? And honestly, if you guys pay attention to like FDR and stuff, he's like, well, the Jews are dying in camps. That's nicer than when I was dying. Right? Like, I didn't get a camp. I had to die in the wilderness alone. My brother left me out there with a wheelchair. What, Teddy Roosevelt wasn't FDR's brother. Maybe his dad, uncle. I don't know. Rapist. So I don't know who he was. FDR's like, I was left out in the woods alone. They get a camp. That's nice. I would have loved to shower with cyanide, but my wheelchair would have rusted. Zyklon. It was Zyklon back then. Sorry, my glasses didn't adjust. He didn't like them very much either. Well, they're killing Jews. So? And they're like, well, like actually though, Japan just attacked Pearl Harbor. Oh my God, the slanties, get them. I'd get them myself. I'd wheel myself down an aircraft carrier, launch me towards Japan. But he didn't like that's the moral of the story here. FDR, did he appoint one Jew to the Supreme Court? No. And you're like, well, they're lawyers. They have to be on the Supreme Court. It's the biggest court. He's like, they will not pass. Like Gandalf, but for Jews, he stopped them from being on the Supreme Court, and he stopped America from saving them in the Holocaust. But it wasn't complicated. Maybe it was complicated. Now that I think about it, kind of complicated. I take back everything I said, except everything about FDR. That guy's a fucking asshole. I'm glad he was paralyzed or whatever. Polio. Good. Because history is edited. Oh, wow. That's what Gina Carano wrote online at the time. Because history is edited. History is edited. That's real. Like, I don't know how people don't know this is not controversial. History's edited. Okay. God damn it. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, I'm listening. The government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. That's actually accurate. The bad part, though, is I don't think the Germans needed much help. For those little rascals, we'll get you out of this country next. And they didn't like, but that is true. Like, they're like, you know what? You guys should hate the Jews. 4 out of the 5 are like, we're all dentists and we approve this message. The one guy's like, well, I'm also a dentist, but why should not? The teeth. It all goes back to how many teeth? That's a lot of teeth. Don't ask questions about the dentists in Germany. Forget I said dentists. But they're like, no, they're like, seriously, you guys should probably hate these guys because that's why your house costs so much. I don't know who we're supposed to hate anymore because our houses, our interest rates are high. Payments are high. House pricing's high. We're not allowed to hate anybody though. But back then, like, these guys have all the money and they make your clothes because textiles. And they came up with reasons for people like, they're like, yeah, actually, I do hate those guys. Like, they seem terrible. And they're like, but we take Friday night, Saturday morning off. You don't have to see with us. You don't have to deal with us. Hang out in our houses. That's what we will get them, right? Because they knew where to get them. They knew where they'd be Friday night and Saturday morning because they're backwards people who don't understand clocks and when the day starts. Because they read the Torah and not the Christian Bible, King James Version, which says that a divorce is okay because he really wanted to get rid of that one bitch and get the other bitch because the other bitch could get pregnant, maybe, but the first bitch couldn't. She only gave me girls, and like China, I don't like those. King James Bible's great. Anyway, so that's the first part of the message. They made the German people hate the Jews that were next to them. They did that. That's real. Carano wrote online at the time. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Here's the thing, guys. That's a question. Again, jokes aside. Jokes aside. That's a question. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Well, I can think of some ways. I can think of some hows that are out there. But it is a conversation starter, right? It's like, how is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Well, first of all, you would have to imagine that the Jews in Nazi Germany were a monolith, right? And they're a monolith. They're all the same. But they weren't. There were probably a couple of weird ones, like Zuckerberg or whatever. It was like, no, I actually like this. This is good. This is good. This is how I wax my car and I talk to Hitler. I like this guy. Sieg Heil. Like, right? Like bagel in one hand, Sieg Heiling in the other. Like that guy existed. Like, as weird as that sounds, maybe not funny to you, I guarantee you there was a Sieg Heiling Jew who's like, I just woke up. I missed it all. What happened? We're all doing this. It's good. Well, that little guy with the funny mask. I bet he's Jewish too. He looks about the same size as me. I saw him at the last. Pick a Jewish holiday. I don't know. Just don't say Ramadan. Don't say that one. Or those will come for you. They only get 2 echoes. But you know that there, of course, were Nazi sympathetic Jews. They're all, to think that any one people is a monolith. So we got some differences. Like, well, they don't hate the Jews because of their political views. Hate them because they're Jews. That's a difference. Right? Because otherwise, they would have hated other people who politically aligned with the Jews. Okay. But as we've seen, like, let's get back to the Nazis for just a second. Not that we ever left, right? We are on the right, after all. And we were quoting Daily Beast earlier. But think about this. Think about this honestly. Modern American Jews, right? Like those. What part of the National Socialistic Party would they not like other than killing Jews? It's a fascistic, government-led party that favored specific businesses. They didn't like Jewish ones, but we do, right? Like, they have all these bills talking about how you can't talk about Jewish-owned businesses and stuff like that in various places. They're trying to criminalize speech against Jews. They can't criminalize it. They create these organizations that go after them. You know what that sounds like? Fascistic oppression. Just not against Jews, though, right? Like, so what part of the actual ideology, beyond the hatred of Jews, because they're like, I guess central banking or whatever, what part of this thing did they actually not like? I don't know. The modern American Democrat Jew, I'm not sure what they overly disagree with other than the hatred of Jews. Maybe they can come tell me about it. I don't know, because what am I, a Jew? DJI82 says, that software I keep offering to you can pull both audiences at the same time. No joking. Oh my God, used to have to be a genetic mutation, an anomaly to pull 2 at the same time. Right? Let's see. Me04120 says, Nick was the second funniest guy at the bowling alley because no one has better comedic timing than that cheese guy. Dude, that cheese guy was funny. It's great. I love that. Cheese, if you're out there, I'll invite you to my house. My whiskey's gone. I better consult the Germans. All right. So Disney's side wrote in the filing, sorry, I'm delaying this for no reason, that Carano's decision to compare, quote, criticism of political conservatives to the annihilation of millions, maybe, of Jewish people. No, they didn't call them Jews. They called them Jewish people. Wait. Notably not thousands. Why does it say that? Why does this article say? Here's the quote. This is a quote from the Disney filing. I have to say this. Shit. This is weird. Quote, criticism of political conservatives. To the annihilation of millions of Jewish people, an N dash, notably not thousands, was the last time she'd be allowed to represent the company. Did she say anything about thousands rather than millions? I don't think so. Maybe. Lucasfilm denounced her statement and publicly stated that the actress wouldn't be returning to the show, and she was dropped from her agency, UTA. Carano sued Disney 2 years later, saying the company, quote, violated California labor laws prohibiting employers from taking adverse employment actions on the basis of an employee's political activity. I've talked about this before. This is a tenuous route under the California code because that law was specifically enforced to be for proponents of the homosexuals back in the 60s and protect them from being fired by the closeted homosexuals, right? And they're like, well, if you come out for the homos, you shouldn't be fired for the homos. But other applications of political activity and protecting it for employment status have actually not been as successful as protecting it for the homos, by the homos, for the homos again, because they recharged. All right. Disney is fighting back against the claim in court, saying in the filing that having to continue employing Carano would be a violation of its own First Amendment rights. And a bunch of other stuff, really. Not just their First Amendment rights, also their anti-Jewish rights. Quote, state law cannot force entities that do create speech products. Imagine saying, I create speech products. How about you? No, I don't. To speak through writers or singers, not Camila Cabello and Cinderella, or should I say Cinderella, because there's two L's and that chick is Hispanic and they say ella for two L's. Or actors whose own speech and public profile could, in the employer's view, compromise the employer's ability to express itself in its own chosen manner, which is why they delete black people from posters in China. Because their own, remember, Disney's artistic voice is to delete black people from movie posters when they advertise in China, because the Chinese haven't quite gotten comfortable with the dark men and women coming to their country. Like, the Mongolians are dark enough and the other side is water and we know you can't come that way. Stay away. And Disney's like, don't worry, Hu Jintao, or wait, Xi Jinping or whatever. We will keep the dark people away. Disney's like, and the dark of night will not descend upon Shanghai. I made that song up. The company's counsel wrote in the motion filed this week. And that is where, guys, we're going to take a Rumble flip break. I'm going to go to the bathroom. We'll be Rumble exclusive in just a minute. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. If you're not enjoying the show, sorry. It's tough for me to say I'm sorry. Like Peter Cetera. Click the thumbs up or the thumbs down on your way out of YouTube. Join us over on Rumble. It's in the pinned chat. It's in the description. Come, emphasis on the to us over there. We'll see you. And we'll see you tomorrow. If you don't want to go to Rumble because you're like, I really don't like Jews, though. You don't want to go to Rumble? I get it. I like the Jews. And I love their control of my speech. In government, in practice, in schools, and most importantly, in my breakfast cereals. Where'd the teeth go? We'll see you over on Rumble. to YouTube. Have a good night, guys. Peace. Oh, the poll. I guess we'll end it. Should Ryan the editor be fired forever? 31% of you say yes. 15% of you say no. 54% of you have agreed that Ryan needs polls. So that's that. Drop Barracuda says maybe the Chinese are superstitious and they think they're coming to steal their hair. That's just Jewish women, though. All right, guys. See you over on YouTube. Or no, on Rumble. We'll see you not on YouTube. Very, very Jewish. Very not anti-Semitic of Google to do that to me. See you over on Rumble. Peace. Peace.